Hi guys, welcome to the Shrewsbury Biscuit podcast. I'm your host, Alex Whiteley, and despite lockdown 2.0, we're still doing this. We're still here, we're still doing the show, and today joining me is an amazing guest that popped up on my emails, and I can't believe I didn't know of you, and I'm so privileged to be speaking to Kelda Wood. Thank you so much for joining me.
Actually, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've got Dean Harris to thank for this because she kind of introduced us. Again, Dean Harris being the amazing woman that she is, making connections.
She's incredible, isn't she? She's dynamic in every sense of the word.
Absolutely, and I'm meeting a lot of strong female role models in Shrewsbury. Actually, you know, Amanda Jones from Shropshire Supports Refugees was on my show a few weeks ago, and she blew me away because of just how passionate she was. There's obviously Dean Harris, and there's been a few women on there, even people on my team, Jules and Dee. They're kicking butt on many levels. I love it. It's great. Do you want to introduce our listeners to who you are and what it is that you actually do? Because I have got a list of questions to ask you, but I think it's best if you explain you, because you know you better than me.
God, that's never a short answer. That's a problem. So I guess, my name's Kelda Wood. I'm the founder of Climbing Out. So I guess as far as what I do now is I run the charity Climbing Out, and Climbing Out runs 5-day outdoor activity programs aimed at rebuilding confidence, self-esteem and motivation in people who've been through mental and physical trauma. But I guess my passion and who I am is kind of really related to my own journey. So I was following a professional sporting career, was injured nearly 18 years ago now, that ended up ending that career, and the challenges I had in dealing with that led me to not only set up Climbing Out but become a member of the GB Paracanoe Squad, and then led on to other adventures and journeys that really kind of left me doing what I'm doing now, which is all about really trying to inspire and motivate other people who've been through trauma, and kind of learn to accept what's happened and find a new way forwards.
So when it comes to Climbing Out, it's all about team building and improving confidence and things, right?
Yeah, I guess most of all it's about mental resilience. I think sense. As the charity, it's around outdoor activities. So we started the charity running outdoor activity programs to really show people how they could adapt and overcome and challenge boundaries and step out their comfort zone. As my journey continued and as the charity evolved, we really started to bring in more and more of the personal development coaching and mental resilience coaching, because what I learned myself was it wasn't actually about managing my injury. It was more managing my mind and how I viewed my injury. So we do it all in a very fun, light-hearted, very real life way, but it's really about giving people coming on the programs tools for their toolbox that will help them like I say, accept what's happened, come to terms with what's happened, but really manage themselves moving forwards to be the best they can be, to get the most out of life and to live life and enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, you're offering something that's really important, I think, actually, because I've been very lucky to speak to many people from around the world. And one of the guys I spoke to on What's the Difference for the part of my USUC team was a guy called Peter Bedard. And he was a found dancer who had his body smashed up in a car crash, very tragically. And despite what Western medicine did to him, there was only so much he could do with restoring his sort of mind and his mindset and getting through the pain and stuff. Rather than being hooked on drugs, he learned how to, positive thinking and think, did a lot of healing and yoga and all these sort of things, and breathing and meditation, all these things that can sort of help him, and it changes his life.
It's so interesting you say that, because I've had a conversation this morning with someone, and my big thing is that so many people, myself included for a long time, aren't aware of these tools. And they're not just for people who've been through trauma. I was actually talking about how it's helped me in my relationship with my partner, because instead of us like all getting narky with each other and getting into arguments, we manage ourselves so much better. So for anyone, whether it be, in a relationship or dealing with your kids or dealing with lockdown or dealing with a problem at work, these tools are so helpful in just managing situations. But not enough people know about them, and they're not complicated. They're so simple, because I'm a really simple person. As soon as you use a big word, I get lost. But the way I describe it is, if you think of sitting in a car and it's rolling down the hill, and all you've got to do to stop it is put the handbrake on, but no one showed you where the handbrake is and how to use it. It takes 10 seconds to show someone how to use the handbrake, but if no one showed you, you don't know how to stop the car. Well, it's the same with these tools. They're really simple, they're really short, they're really sweet. But if no one shows you how to use them, you can't apply them to life. So I get very passionate about what we do, because I know I've experienced firsthand the difference that these tools can make. And it frustrates me that not enough people know about them.
And from what I get from is Climbing Out aimed at younger people or people of all ages?
It's actually people 18 and over now. And initially, when we set up, we were aimed at young people. Our age range was 16 to 30. And then what we found as we evolved was we had a lot of people contacting us that were saying, we really need this, but we're over 30. So we ran a program for people over 30, which was mind-blowing, the impact that it had. And, just because you're 31 doesn't mean you haven't got a whole heap of life still to lead, and whether you're 30, 50, 60, 20, there's loads to go out there and enjoy and explore. And so if we can help people to do that. So now we work with 18 and over. We're supporting the emergency services, the military, the NHS, and it's been incredible, how the reach has grown and the difference that the charity's making.
And I imagine that an 18-year-old so like you go camping or you do something overnight where you guys are all together. I guess you do a lot of that, right? Well, yeah. Pre-COVID.
Yeah. Thanks, COVID.
The mindset of an 18-year-old is completely different from one that's older. So maybe they learn from another. Life skills, communication.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think one of the massive things is about bringing people together who've been through shared experiences. So when you bring people together excuse my dogs in the background.
It's fine. Dogs are allowed. Dogs are allowed on the Biscuit.
That's part of working from home, isn't it? But yeah, so you bring people together who they haven't necessarily been through the same challenges or the same trauma, but there is this unwritten understanding of each other. Sorry, they're all getting vocal now. There's lots of dogs.
Probably Amy.
Yes. I think there's a cow in the field opposite mooing. That's what they're barking at. There's this unwritten understanding of each other, and that non-judgmental shared experience, but also, as you say, learning from each other, how each other have they learn how different people cope in different ways, but they also support each other. So when someone's having a bad day, the rest of the group, they understand it because they've been there themselves. So there's a real network of long-term friendship and support that develops as well, which is as powerful as the mental resilience tools.
When you're talking about mental resilience, because obviously people that have been through trauma, a lot of people that have been through trauma develop a lot of boundaries and a lot of barriers that they put up in front. They've got a lot of stubbornness about them, a lot of hardness about them. They've done things their way for so long that as soon as someone tells them to do something differently, it gets quite difficult for them. I've seen that many, many times. What's that like for you guys?
I think one of the really interesting things with Climbing Out is we have only a small number of people on each program, and we build up a real relationship with each person, and there's an element of trust and rapport with them. But massively, I hope the strength with the charity is that it's very personal. I've been through my own challenges with my leg injury, and so when we're sharing these tools, it's not someone standing up in front of them telling them how to live their lives because I've read this book or I've been on a course. I'm sharing my own experiences. I'm sharing my own challenges. I'm sharing my own weaknesses and vulnerabilities, and then sharing kind of what I did to overcome that. And what I've seen time and time again is that does create this ability for us to be able to challenge people a little bit more and question some of those boundaries. So I think it's something that I feel very privileged to be in the position that I can share my story, and in doing that you just get a trust and a buy-in from people that then enables you to challenge those boundaries and push people's buttons a bit more. Is that really true? Do you have to lead it like that? And if I can just quickly give you one example.
There
was a police officer came on a program recently, and he had PTSD, and he'd been stuck for a couple of years since the trauma that he'd been through. And I kept on saying to him, what do you want? What do you want? He said, I want to move on from this. But every time I walked past him on the program, I heard him talking about it. And so we got to the fourth day of the program, and I said to him again, what do you want in life? What do you want? And he said, I want to move on from this. So I said, can I challenge you on that? Because every time I've walked past you, I've heard you talking about it. In continually talking about it, does that help you to move on from it? And he said, no. And he said, but people keep asking me. And I was able to say, well, just because people ask you, do you have to tell them? What else could you say that might get you a better result? Now, although he felt quite uncomfortable with the conversation, we were able to come up with the answer that he would have a response whenever someone asked, that he would say, I'm a retired police officer with PTSD who's now moving forwards. And that enabled him to have the respect that he was a police officer, and he felt he wanted to get that respect. He enabled people to know that there'd been something happen by telling them, I'm a police officer with PTSD. Mm-hmm. But what he wanted to be identified by was the fact that he was now moving forwards. And that one answer has changed his life, because he's now unstuck himself and been able to move forwards. But if I'd asked him that question at the start of the week or before the program, he'd have probably said something very rude to me and told me where to shove it, and quite rightly so. Yeah. But I think the fact that through sharing my own story and the fact that I've been there, I've done exactly what he's done, so I can understand why he's doing it. But that really allows us to make a difference and challenge those boundaries, which is great.
Is it almost like a mental mantra? Sort of repeating those things to yourself, those inner truths, those kind of I am this, this is who I am, and this is where I'm going, and then repeating it till it becomes true. Is that?
No, being honest, because the one thing I always have said is keep it real. Keep it real. Okay. Whatever trauma you've been through is part of you. So pretending the trauma hasn't, by going, I am this, I am this, I am this, it's almost like you're trying to bury it and hide it. Let's keep it real. That trauma had happened to him. So hence I'm a retired police officer with PTSD. We're not ignoring the fact that he's got PTSD. We're acknowledging that fact. So for me, it's actually about being honest, acknowledging the challenges, acknowledging the struggles, but then accepting that it's part of you. And once you accept it, you're then able to move forward. So I think it's choosing what you focus on. If he focuses on the PTSD bit, that's what he'll always see, and that's what he'll become. But by changing that statement, he was focusing on the now moving forwards. So he was acknowledging that his police career, his PTSD was part of him, but what he was focusing on, who he now was that person who's moving forward. So I think it's just making people aware of where are you focusing your energy, and make sure you're focusing that energy on something that's making you feel better, not feel worse.
I think, it's an important lesson. I feel like out of the scores of people, I imagine that take advantage of the great things that you guys do at climbing out. Sorry, if you could help just a handful of people every time, I feel like that's a great success. And the fact that they've got that as an outlet, as an outreach, as something that they can go to and experience that, I think it's an amazing thing. Where did it all begin though for you? Where did climbing out begin? Why, where, and why, when?
That's another massive question, isn't it?
It's a good one. It's a good one.
It's a good one. It's a great question. So I guess as I said at the start, I was injured in 2002. I was following a professional sporting career, and the accident I had left me unable to run. So my whole world had been turned upside down. But more than anything, I lost my identity. Sport was who I was. And so I really struggled to come to terms with that for the best part of 10 years. And I always said, it wasn't that I was unhappy. I just wasn't at peace with who I was with my injury. And then in 2010, I decided to climb Kilimanjaro. I knew that I needed a challenge. So I went and did that. And I had a real light bulb moment on that mountain. And I realized that I needed to start focusing on what I could do with my leg rather than what I couldn't. So I came back, I began retraining as an outdoor instructor. And then it was really through the outdoor world that I started to get back to being Kelda. But I also realized that there were so many other people that were stuck where I'd been stuck for those 10 years. And I wanted to do something to try and give them the opportunity to unstick themselves in the same way that I had. So I'd been working up in the Lake District one day. I was driving back to Shropshire and I had a phone call when I was asked to speak to a guy who'd had a similar injury to myself, but he hadn't accepted the impact it had on his life to the point he tried to commit suicide.
Oh,
so I pulled over and I rang him up and I spoke to him. And after speaking to him, I got back driving and I was like, I've got to do something with this. I've got to do something because there are so many people who are where I've been. And by the time I got back to Shropshire, which was only about an hour and a half later, but I'd come up with the idea of climbing out and how it was going to work and what we were going to do. And it wasn't as straightforward as that, but that was where it started from.
Yeah, it's all about. I suppose you've got to get funding, and you've got to get people, you got to volunteers, you got to put it all together before you can even start. I mean, things got to be safe for people before they turn up, right?
Yeah, so again, lots and lots of barriers and challenges, but hey, that's life, nothing that's worth doing is easy, is what I say. So yeah, we ended up linking up with an outdoor company. So they were going to deliver the programs for us for exactly that reason, to make sure they were safe and risk assessed. We had qualified instructors working on the programs, and then it was about raising the money and sourcing the young people, because as I say, we started off working with the younger age group. So we ran a ball. The ball raised the money to enable us to run our first program. One of a great friend of mine and a patron for the charity was a trustee for the Teenage Cancer Trust. So we linked up with the Teenage Cancer Trust to source the first group of young people. So the first group we took out were all survivors of cancer. And that was where we started from. We started running one program, and 10 years later, we're now a nationally recognised charity that is doing all kinds of, even if I say it myself, incredible work. But reaching, we've reached over 350 people. We're supporting lots of people in lots of different ways now. So, but it takes time. It takes time, and it's been an amazing, challenging, incredible journey for climbing out. Yeah,
I mean, your website is amazing. I'm on it now. I'm looking at it, and the pictures, the videos, everything, all your achievements. I do encourage the listeners to go check out climbingout.org.uk. It's a great website, and it lets you know everything that you guys are up to.
Yeah, and I think is a great opportunity for me to say. It sounds ridiculous thing to say, but one of our biggest challenges is actually loading people onto programs. And because of the nature of the people we work with, sometimes they're lacking in confidence to get in touch, but sometimes people think, my challenge isn't bad enough. do you know what I say? It's all relative. You can have broken your finger, but if your dream was to be a international guitar player and it stops you from playing the guitar, that injury is life-changing. So it's all relative. So even if you don't think you're bad enough or it's significant enough, get in touch and we'll just have the conversation, because it's there for you.
I mean, I've known people that have been absolutely traumatized by ADHD, for example. They can't concentrate to learn. Like they try and read, but they can't. It's just a million things happening at the same time for them, which is heartbreaking to hear, because there's that intent there. They want to learn, they want the education, but they can't access it. It's heartbreaking.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, climbing out is great, and I've maybe I can help you with a couple of people. I don't know, maybe.
Amazing, brilliant. I mean, the more we can get the word out there, the better.
I mean, obviously we're in the middle of a pandemic. It's going to be lockdown 2.0 and stuff. How have you guys been coping through COVID, and what's the plans for the future?
Yeah, it's been an interesting time, if that's the right word to use. We had such an exciting year planned, and of course that all went out the window in March. In August, we were able to run our first programme of the year in a COVID adaptive way, and it was incredibly successful. And we were like, this is amazing. We can still go ahead. We can run in a COVID adapted way. And then second lockdown comes in, and all the local lockdowns came in, and we've ended up having to scrap all our programmes for this year. But we have got a full chock-a-block schedule of programmes for next year, and we're ready. We know we can run them in a COVID adapted way. So we're confident, of going ahead and carrying on with the incredible work we've been doing. But I think what lockdowns taught us, which is actually blooming brilliant, is that there are other ways to reach people and other ways to deliver what we deliver on the programmes when we can't run the programmes. So what we've actually started putting together is we've put together a series of podcasts that share the table legs. So I talk about table legs. The way I describe what we do on the programmes is, if you think of mental well-being being like a table, and your mental resilience and your mental strength is the tabletop, that table needs table legs in order to hold it up and for the table to work. Now, in my own journey, no one told me what those table legs were, and I really wish someone had. So on the programme, we share those table legs, but we also recognise that you need a toolbox of table legs, because it's not one size fits all. Different people need different table legs depending on their journey and their personality and the situations they're in. So when I talk about table legs, that's what I mean by table legs.
No, it's nice. I like that. It's great.
I know. It's kind of, I'm so used to using the terminology, I forget other people don't know what the hell I'm going on about, and they think I'm building tables or something.
I like it.
But yeah, I think it explains it really well, because again, everyone needs a different colour, different shape, different fitting, because everyone's individual, and we really recognise that everyone is an individual. But we've put together these podcasts that share the table legs, and it was kind of, so if we can't reach people through the 5-day programs, okay, it might be at a lower level, but at least we're still reaching people. And actually the reach through those podcasts has been huge. It's been massive. And I'm more than happy to share those links with you if that's...
Yeah, please do. We'll put them on our Facebook.
Yeah. Brilliant. Because again, the more people we can reach, they're a tool. Like, please use them. Like, that will be brilliant. We're then looking at running a series of online workshops, delivering the table legs. So, okay, we can't get together doing 5-day programs, but let's still reach people. We're running walk and talk days, which are what they say on the tin. We're meeting, we're walking, we're talking. It's not as intense, and it maybe intense is the wrong word, but it's maybe not having the same impact as the 5-day program, but it's still impacting, and we're actually able to impact more people, because it's not 5 days that actually, they're fully funded, but it's a big expense to climbing out. The walk and talk days are much more accessible. It's often much easier for people to get 1 day rather than 5 days to come. We've put together a series of videos sharing the tools in the toolbox. So what we've really realised is there's actually this triangle kind of sort of system, and at the bottom of the triangle we're reaching a much wider number of people at a lower level. Top of the triangle is the 5-day programs, where we're reaching a lower number of people but a more in-depth level. But we hadn't realised that. Before COVID, we were just doing the 5-day programs, and COVID has actually allowed us to really adapt how we can deliver, which has enabled us to reach many more people, which I've got to take as a plus point, you know. So it's not all been bad through COVID.
Yeah, I mean, there are some people that have really kind of relished the challenge. Actually, I mean, like we had a live show last night to celebrate our 2-year anniversary of the biscuit, and we were talking about like, you know, we were supposed to do these amazing things and all that sort of stuff, but like actually, we adapted and we became a voice for the town when there was none, you know, and that was a really great idea. But yeah, I love what you guys do. I think it's fantastic. You offer a great service to people, you know. You got how many is on your team now, and how many were there from the beginning? Has it grown?
Yeah, so we made a decision to, sorry, that's the phone going as well, which is another part of working from home. We made a decision that we wanted to still stay small. You know, climbing out is personal. Everyone's treated as an individual, and we will build, you know, a very personal relationship with everyone that comes on a program. And we got to the point where we said we can make a decision. We can either go big here, reach more people, but it becomes less personal, or we can stay small. And we decided to stay small. So we have, I'm the only person working full time for climbing out, but we have a team of 5 instructors that work on the programs, and they are the most incredible bunch of guys you could hope to meet. They're very specifically selected, if that's the right word, to be part of the climbing out team. So it's really about having both the outdoor skills and qualifications, but also the life coaching and personal development coaching skills, but being the right person, you know, being a personable, friendly, jokey. It's all about having fun. We've got a saying on climbing out, and it's when you have fun, you can have confidence. When you have confidence, you can achieve anything. So first and foremost, we want to have fun, because when people are having fun, that's when they grow, you know. So the team are the best bunch of guys you could hope to work with, and incredibly empathetic and understanding, not afraid to challenge when they need to challenge, but fun. We have a lot of laughs on the program too, which is great.
I love climbing out.
Do you want to come? Do you want to come?
I should. I'd love to. I think it's fantastic. I think what you guys do is brilliant, because it's a lot of what I stand for too. You know, it's like, you know, nobody on this earth is a number. Like, nobody should deserve to be treated like a number or a cog in a machine. I hate that.
Yes.
It's such a stupid paraphrase. Like you say, yeah.
And I do see a lot of amazing work that's been done out there, but where it doesn't sit comfortably with me is that it just becomes a process.
Yeah.
You know, and
or a policy.
Yeah, and there's no heart and passion behind it. You know, climbing out is all about heart and passion, and we had to stay small to do that. So it was a very deliberate decision to stay small, because we want every single one of our participants to matter, and that they never just become a number. Yeah,
it's cool. I love this, guys. Make sure you follow the website and get in touch. How can people help you, especially during lockdown? What would you like from people?
Yeah, do you know what? It's always such a not a difficult question to answer, but we have 2 main challenges. One is accessing people, and one is always making sure we've got enough funding in the bank to finance the programs. And I hate being one of those people that's asking for money, so I never do. But what I would say is like, if people want to get involved, we have a fundraising hike once a year. We have a fundraising ball. Like, support in that way is great. But what's even more important is tell people. You know, actually, as I said, reaching people is often our biggest challenge. So please, if you know anyone who's struggling, tell them to get in touch, share the links to the podcasts. You know, the videos are going to be on an online resource. It's that handbrake analogy again. Someone might be sitting there either needing to put the handbrake on or needing to take the handbrake off. And all they need to do is maybe listen to a podcast. I often say sometimes it can just be one line that connects with someone that makes the difference. Well, let's give them the opportunity to get those one lines or those one things. So how people can support in the best way for us is tell people, share the podcast, share the video, share the links, raise awareness about what we're doing and the opportunity that's there for people.
Beautifully said, because I feel like, obviously I'm a podcaster. I appreciate the spoken word and sometimes a carefully, or even sometimes just not even carefully, but a passionate statement. One passionate statement can change your life, and that's happened for me plenty of times. One of the reasons I do this is because of what I've heard and what I've experienced through the world of podcasting. You know, it's a nice thing to give back to people.
Yeah.
Can we take a moment just to talk about your adventures? Because I know you probably you have this conversation a lot, and you say the same things over. I know it's okay. But not to the degree where I have rowed across the Atlantic single-handedly. Wow, where did that come from? What an amazing achievement.
Yeah, it's I never quite know what to say about that, because it was an experience. You know, I'm not going to say it was an amazing experience, because at the time it was pretty blooming awful. 76 days it took me, and 76 days. I love people, I love talking. So 76 on my own in the middle of an ocean when I don't know how to row and I've never done anything on the ocean. That was challenging. But that was why I had to do it. It was meant to be a challenge. So, yeah, it was an amazing thing an amazing project to be part of, I think is probably the way to put it. Learned a lot.
The build up to that, though. The build up to that, not quite knowing what to expect, training on the 7, all these kind of things that you did.
Yes.
That was in your little documentary that was amazingly made, by the way.
Thank you.
What was that like for you to get there and be like, oh my God, this is a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be? What's going on here?
Completely overwhelming is the honest answer. But I think the one thing, funnily enough, I did a talk earlier this week where I'd actually sort of reflected on this, in that I didn't want to do it. It was overwhelming. I often questioned why the hell I'd ever come up with the thought that I might possibly be able to row across the Atlantic on my own. But I had to remember why I was doing it, because each day I was on the ocean, I was rowing for a different young person who'd been through mental and physical trauma. And each day they'd all written and shared their own stories. So each day we were sharing their stories online and through the website and social media. And I kind of had to say to myself, when someone's been through cancer, when someone's been a survivor of the Manchester Arena bombing, when someone's been abused, they have no choice whether they deal with it or they don't. They just have to keep going. They just have to deal with it. So that was why I had to do it. I had to, despite not wanting to. The whole aim of the row was to inspire and motivate people to get out there and keep going and push their boundaries. So what kind of example would I be if I ran away, if I didn't see it through? And yet I'm telling them, you can do it, you can get through hard times. So that was why. And it was why I had to do something like rowing the Atlantic, because I love climbing mountains. I could have gone and climbed a mountain, but that would have been something that I enjoyed. So I had to do something that was actually gonna push me to my limits, and boy did it do that.
I bet it did. I mean, I don't know what, I can't imagine what it's like on your own in a boat at night on the ocean. I can't imagine what that's like. It must be so scary.
Neither can I. And that sounds like the craziest thing in the world to say, but when you're there, it's almost like you take on another persona, and you you just deal with it because you've got no choice. And sometimes I look back at some of the photos. I was actually watching another rower's footage of them out on the Atlantic the other day, and I was like, I didn't do that. Of course I didn't do that. It was like I was watching a film and it was
Completely
someone
surreal.
else doing it. Yeah, completely surreal. But do you know, this actually probably going off on a bit of a tangent here, so I hope you don't mind. But
it's a podcast. That's what it's for, baby.
It's a podcast. You can always cut it, can't you? So someone said to me when I came back, and it was a great friend, he'd actually lost both his legs in Afghanistan. And he said to me, Afghanistan is such a surreal world. It's like a parallel universe. And unless you've been there, no one can understand it. And he said, I would imagine that being out in the middle of the Atlantic is something very similar. And I kind of, yeah, you are. It's like it's a parallel universe that isn't real. But the trouble with doing it as a solo is you haven't even got anyone else to compare notes with, as in, can you remember when that happened? And can you remember that moment? And what he said to me was, he came back from Afghanistan and it was like he needed it to fit into everyday life to make sense of it. But sometimes that experience is never going to fit because it's such a surreal parallel universe. It can't fit into normal life.
It just exists on its own.
It just exists. And it's like, if you think of the jigsaw puzzle of life, it's a separate little jigsaw puzzle on its own. And that made sense of the Atlantic for me. But I've also used that a lot with people who've been through trauma, that a lot of the time I think people get a lot of unrest and upset and anxiety because they can't make it fit. And maybe it's okay that it doesn't, that it just sits in a separate little jigsaw piece of its own.
Wow.
That was deep, wasn't it?
That was deep. I mean, I didn't realise it had that effect on you. I mean, it is an amazing achievement, but it's obviously had a long-lasting effect on you.
Oh, God. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say, but look what's happened because of it. Climbing out is this thing now that you're doing, and because of the awareness that you've created. Because
yes, and I think it was more the learnings that I had in reaching rock bottom, which sounds melodramatic, but up until that point with climbing out, I'd been a bit of a preach the positivity, have the tools in your toolbox and focus on the positives and everything will be fine. What the Atlantic taught me was that when things are really tough, sometimes the tools don't work, and it's okay to just acknowledge that you're struggling. And that actually was far more real life to the people that we work with and support than saying focus on the positives. And although it is focusing on the positives, you've got to be in the right place to do that, so sometimes acknowledging the struggle is okay. So I think in pushing myself to the point that I did, I mean, I hated the solitude. On day 2, I just went, I really love people.
I'm totally with you on that one, because that's the first thing I brought up was because I work on my own at night time, right? So I don't have anybody else really to talk to. And this is where the whole podcasting thing came from, because I needed some background, right? And then I wanted to give that back to other people, right? Because I can't, it's hard doing a job that's really important. And you have to make the right decisions, right? Because when you're out on your own on the ocean, you could row for a whole night in the wrong direction, and you've got to, do you know what I mean? Like, you've got to trust yourself, and that's hard to do.
And that was, it's a really good point, because that was something that was so hard out there, is that I realised what a bad decision maker I am, because when I had to make decisions, I would normally go, what do you think about this, to someone else to sort of get a bit of confidence in my decision making. And when you've got no one to ask out there, that was really hard.
Just row across the Atlantic, they said. It'd be fun, they said. I could just imagine you giving yourself a hard time,
Exactly. And you know what? You don't, until you're out there, you don't realise the simple things that become much harder. The one thing I realised was that I I bounce off other people a lot. So a lot of my positivity comes from being aware that if I'm not a happy, bubbly person, it impacts on others. Now, when you suddenly take away the others, you have no reason not to be miserable and grumpy. So I got really miserable and grumpy out there. And I was like, who is this person? I hate the person I am out here. And then, when you're feeling miserable and grumpy, everything becomes harder. And so everything became harder. And it was like, what's happening out here? And I did not realize just how important people are around us. Really.
What was it like for you? Because you talk about the guy from Afghanistan. What was it like for you coming back and having that to deal with and fitting back into society and routine and your friends and things, and just drifting off into space and be like, "Are you on the ocean again?" Yeah, I'm back on the ocean. Was that hard for you?
Not really, no. It was ridiculous. I often say, so I landed back in the UK on the Saturday morning and travelled back to my parents because they'd been looking after my dogs while I was away. And on that Saturday night, I was sat on the sofa watching Casualty, having just eaten a big meal and had a bath, and I was going to bed in a normal bed. And I sat there like it was completely normal. I was like, hang on a minute, 72 hours ago, I was still in the middle of the blooming Atlantic. Like, I just fell back into normal life, and it was like the Atlantic had never happened.
You said that in the film, didn't you? You did say that in the film,
yeah. And that was really weird. Really weird in that it was suddenly like I'd imagined the whole thing and I hadn't really done it. And I still feel like that now. I still can't believe I actually did it.
1 minute you're on a queue, you're in the Atlantic, the next minute you're in a queue in the post office.
Yeah,
just doing normal
exactly.
things.
Like, how bonkers is that?
Crazy,
but I think the thing I did find quite hard was you realise how simple life was out there, because actually you had your routine, nothing changed. You rode, you ate, you slept a little bit, and you rode a bit more. That was life. And suddenly having to think about getting the food shopping and going to the post office and filling your car with people in the house and walking the dogs and calling people and answering emails, I was like, oh my God, take me back to the Atlantic, which was ridiculous because I actually missed it once I got back. So, but there was a lot to learn from that.
I imagine. She's such a hero. I couldn't imagine. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't just go, oh, okay, it's fine. I'm just going to go sleep now. You can wake up in anywhere in the world right now.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to go sleep. Like,
I mean, again, bottom line is you didn't have a lot of choice. Like you had to sleep. You couldn't go 3 months without sleeping. And I actually got quite used to it. You just did. When you woke up, you checked your chart plotter and you see where you drifted to, and you adjusted your bearing accordingly, and off you got. And you just had to accept that some nights you got 3 miles, you were blown in the right direction. The most I ever made was 11 miles when I was sleeping. Like, that
Nice.
was a really good day. Like, it was great. Hand in hand with that, you had some days when you got blown in the wrong direction and you had additional miles to row. So there was pros and cons. But the one thing I wanted to say there, Al, was when you said, oh, you're such a hero. I am so not, in that, and I think it is so important to say, I see a lot of people who achieve incredible things, do amazing challenges and have been, win gold medals or whatever it is, and have been incredibly strong, independent, capable people. I wasn't at all. I was pooing my pants about doing it. I cried most days. I had a really bad attitude a lot of days. I kind of called myself the Bridget Jones of the Atlantic because you know the scene where she's doing the parachute jump and she ends in the pigsty covered in pig poo. And like, that was me. I would fall off my seat and end up with my legs in the air. I would trip over. I set the boat on fire. I was boiling my water one day and I tried to turn the gas off and I dropped the jet boil and literally went woof. So I had to throw the jet boil, the gas canister, everything overboard to stop it from setting the entire boat on fire. And then I'm watching my jet boy will float away going, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to swear, but I have
It's okay. I'll beep it out. It'd be funny.
Okay. Like, there goes my cooking facilities, like my poo bucket, right? So you poo in a bucket, there's no toilet on board, you poo in a bucket, and then you wash your bucket out overboard. I had 3 poo buckets on board, and in the first week I did it twice. Like, what an idiot. I leant overboard to wash them out, and a wave hit the bucket, ripped it out my hands, and I lost my poo bucket. Did I learn after the first time? No, I didn't. I did exactly the same thing with the second poo bucket. So suddenly in the first week, I've lost 2 of my 3 poo buckets overboard. I've got 1 poo bucket left. And I'm just thinking, law of averages doesn't bode well that this has now got to last another 3 months. But then I learn and I tied the poo bucket on. So every time I washed it out overboard, it was tied to the boat so it couldn't get ripped out my hands. I was such a numpty out there. But my point with that is I was a numpty. I was a numpty before it. I was a numpty during it. I was pretty much a numpty after it. But I still did it. So the people that are sitting at home and, listening to this going, oh, well, that's awesome, but I couldn't do it. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Because I was anything but a hero. I was a chuffing numpty most of the time. And that for me was the most important message. It's not just the people who are supreme athletes or supreme individuals that can go and do this stuff. You can do it. You've just got to make the decision to do it, and accept it's not going to be easy.
I think you are. I mean, the fact that you're sitting here today and you're saying, I'm not a hero. I didn't. Heroes are supposed to be selfless, not selfish. I had to beat myself out of that. It says here, a hero, heroine in its feminine form, is a real person or main fictional character who, in the face of danger, combats adversity through feats of ingenuity, courage, or strength. Like other formerly solely gender-specific terms, like actor, hero, is often used to refer to any gender. You are a hero. You did this and you survived it, and you're
like that description. I've never heard that sort of. I've never looked it up in the dictionary, but I might hold on. I might call myself a hero now. That's cool.
There you go. And the fact is that you're inspiring others because of it. You are a hero, and I think you're a huge inspiration. My internet is starting to play up. I've never been so stressed about internet in my life. I swear to God. Kelda, you've been an amazing guest. I'd love to get you on again, and we can once the world reopens, we can come and spend some time with you guys at Climbing Out, and we can sort of
let's do it. That would be amazing, because again, the more that we can spread the word, and it is all about inspiring people. If this podcast can inspire one person to get out and do something, that's a great day for me.
That reminds me, I'm swigging coffee while we're chatting. What's the name of the podcasts that you put together? What's the actual name of it? If anybody wants to go, and where can people find them? I know we will share them, but yeah.
They're called Real Life Motivation. They're a Buzzsprouts podcast. So I'm a bit new to the world of podcasts as well. So I hope I'm not giving false information, but they're on Buzzsprouts. They're called Real Life Motivation. But yeah, we've shared all the links through the Climbing Out social media, but that you'd probably have to go back in time to get all of that. But I can share them with you, Alan. Then please feel free to put them out there as well. But yeah, Real Life Motivation on Buzzsprouts.
Fantastic. Yeah, we'll share them. I think that's great. I'd love to. You guys like podcasts? You listen to the Shrewsbury Biscuit right now. You know the name of this one now. Google it. You'll find it. I promise you. But we will share the links to make it a little bit easier. Is there anybody you'd like to thank, or any messages you'd like to relay before we get out of here?
Do you know what? I think first up, I hope this makes sense to people, as in, I kind of always want to keep it real. That's why we called the podcast Real Life Motivation, because it's never about fluffing things up. Like, let's keep it real, but let's be open and honest. And do you know what? If you've got something you want to go and do, go do it. It might not be easy, but that's all the more reason to do it. And when I first started thinking about rowing the Atlantic, I was like, how is this even possible? Like, firstly, how do you get across an Atlantic where there's no signposts, but secondly, how do I start? Where do I start? From raising the money to learning the skills to actually rowing. But just break it down one step at a time, manageable chunks, and before you know it, find your Atlantic, whatever that is. And it doesn't have to be the Atlantic, like massively. It can be learning to knit. If that's been a dream, go out and learn to knit. It doesn't have to be something massive like rowing the Atlantic, but dare to dream. Oh, that's another profound statement to end, isn't it?
Dare to dream.
Dare to dream.
Well, we have...
Sound like Nelson Mandela.
On the 21st, we have our open studios. We're doing them every month now. We'd like to get at least 7 shows. We record it all in one day, one after the other. Maybe we can put something together where you can, if you're going to grab a couple of your young people, join us on the open studios. Maybe we can record a podcast and talk about their experiences. That might be nice.
That'd be amazing. Yeah, brilliant. I'm sure they'd love to do that.
I'll drop you a line after this. This has been amazing. I'm so privileged to have spoken to you. And the ice is broken now. I'm not going anywhere.
It's great. We're off. Let's do more.
Let's do more. Thank you to Dean Harris for putting this connection together, because it obviously makes a lot of sense. There's a podcast there for you guys and a podcast here. And of course it's Shropshire and Shrewsbury. And this is what I love. I'd love to do this again with you sometime. Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. I would love. No, it's great. I would love to give the listeners the chance to go to our website and take a look, please. It's www.the.shrewsburybiscuitpodcast.co.uk. All of our audio is available on there, and that's made for us by our friends at Web Orchard. If you need a website, go and check them out. Do you want to remind people of your website again and social media where they can find you, Kelda?
Yep, the website is climbingout.org.uk. We're on Facebook and Twitter as well, which is Climbing Out. So if you put that in, you'll find us.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, everybody, and we will catch you guys next time on the Shrewsbury Biscuit. Thank you very much. Peace out.